Here's CNN medical correspondent Andrew Holtz.
Welcome. In Missoula, Montana, a hospital offers a treatment that has nothing to do with drugs or even doctors. It's the bedside manner of musicians that's making a difference for patients facing death. Dan Rutz reports.
Theirs is the music of angels brought down to earth. These are students of music thanatology, the chalice of repose. It's a program for countering the fear of imminent death with peaceful acceptance. They present vigils at the bedside of the critically ill to help people achieve a good death.
When we are ill, and when we are vulnerable, and when we're horizontal, you receive sound completely differently.
When we lie down, she teaches, we are more open to the power of music. Even for those lost in comas, as was this woman, the gentle melodies have an effect that doctors can measure on such things as heart rate, breathing, and temperature. The mission is to instill peace, to end the struggle for life, to let go.
At various different times, all the different cultures forget. But at various different times, the notion of a good death, a blessed death, a peaceful death, a conscious death comes back up.
It's been said that the harp produces a heavenly sound. At the care center of the Hospice of Metro Denver, the harp brings heaven to earth.
If you feel like drifting off to sleep, that would be just fine.
Delphine Clement has cancer. She has very little time left to live. With music, Sandy LaForge helps Delphine journey from life to death.
It's not just playing music. Each piece that we play in the repertoire is a piece of medicine.
Sandy LaForge trained for 2 years in a new field called music thanatology to learn how to use music to ease suffering. She watches her patients carefully as she plays, monitoring their physical responses to the music. For some people, dying brings pain that cannot be eased with drugs or counseling or family care.
That's when we call Sandy in. It's at a time where we've used everything that we can think of. And this is that missing piece. She'll go in and that patient relaxes.
For Delphine, so near death, the music provides comfort when there is no longer hope for a cure. The Care Center offers the music to anyone who asks for it, at no charge. It is not a concert, nor is it background music. It is a gift designed to bring peace.
That's the reward, that this person is more comfortable, that there's a possibility of a blessed death, that they're at peace. There's not a struggle at the time of death, but just this ever so subtle change from one state to another. That's what it's about.
Tonight, the gift, the power of music at the threshold between life and death. That is what Therese Schroeder-Schieker and her associates do. They sing and play the harp in hospitals, hospices, and homes to people who are in the final stages of dying. And somehow, in ways that are not altogether clear, they ease the physical and the psychic pain of both the patients and their relatives. If you are unconvinced, as I must confess some of us were, then I invite you to watch The Gift.
So I walked in his room and I heard the death rattle right away, and I knew this is it. This is it. He's dying. It was very loud and agonizing death rattle. He was thrashing. He was frightened. I knew there was nothing more that could be done for him. We were told that this was coming. I just quietly closed the door and drew as close as I could to him and held his hand and said his name, and I was even afraid to approach him because he always pushed people away. But as soon as I did, he clutched onto me and did not let go and was thrashing and gasping, and I knew, this is it. What can you do? But when he didn't let go, I realized he's like, he needs somebody. He needs presence. He needs a witness. He needs help. So I held him and touched him and called his name, and I didn't think my way through the rest of it. I simply got into bed with him and held him and sang to him until he died. And I sang my way through Gregorian chant, again, not because I knew that it was something to do, but because it was spontaneous. It was the most beautiful repertoire that I knew. I didn't have any explanations for what happened, but I knew that witnessing this passage was holy. Didn't have anything to do with saints or angels or this or that, but to actually witness the end of someone's life was a completely sacred moment.
There's one vigil that we played for a young boy. He was 17, and he had leukemia. So we came in and introduced ourselves, and we began to play. And then when the extubation occurred, some of the family members wanted to go, some stayed, but we were able to bridge that uncomfortableness, that difficulty by playing the music, and so the music was beautiful. And the family were distraught, you know, and saying that they loved him, and we continued playing. And then something sort of changed in the air, and you just seem to feel that something is going to happen. And we played a particular lullaby, and I'll never forget the boy's father. So this boy had been still all this time, and just there for all intents and purposes. And as we played this lullaby, the father, who was on the other side of the bed, said, "Look, there's a tear running down his cheek." And everybody looked, and we continued to play, and then I saw on my side a tear just roll down his cheek, just like that, and he died. He just died. He wasn't there. His body was there, but he wasn't there. I'll never forget that. It sounds like one of those stories you make up, but there was some part of him that could hear and that knew that people loved him.
It's just really hard to describe the peace that totally encompasses a person.
They play for the dying. Their music soothes critically ill patients in the hospital and those struggling at home. 18-year-old Larissa Caldwell is dying of liver cancer.
And when they came in and played for us the first time, Larissa was very sick and really needed, in a lot of pain, and really needed a break from that, and it was magical.
It really gave me a break. It really did.
Yeah.
It let me just go off and explore, just feel free, and just to let my cancer just kind of sit in the background for a little while.
Sister Vivian Ripp and Lorraine McCarthy turned their love of music into a vocation for the dying.
We never play one piece exactly the same way. Depends on what's occurring.
They studied at the Chalice of Repose program in Missoula, Montana. It uses the century-old art of harp music and Gregorian chant to ease the transition between life and death for the dying and those around them.
And when you are working with grief and loss and death and dying, you're working through a process of acceptance and letting go, of releasing, of being unbound.
Bob Sherry believed enough in the music concept to bring Strings of Compassion to Sacred Heart Medical Center. It operates out of the Pastoral Care Department.
That phrase, "there's nothing more we can do," has always bothered me, because when someone is dying, there's a great deal that we can do.
Two people carrying harps into their home have come to help. and it'll be both of us today.
Oh,
this is
gee.
Jerry, my
Hi,
partner.
Jerry. Who are you?
For one special hour, Gary Pluff and Jerry Howe will provide comfort.
Just rest. If you want to close your eyes, close your eyes. Just, let the music just wash over you.
With music that soothes souls on the threshold between life and death. The music carries its listeners across years of memories.
I couldn't imagine having anyone else as a dad. He's like the best father in the whole world. I'm very lucky.
As an elementary school principal for more than 30 years, Keith Chris touched thousands of lives. He always had a way with people, especially children.
He always made a point of always memorizing every student's name in every building he was in, so that when he would see them walking down the hall or outside in the playground, he could call them by their name.
As the years wind down to a matter of days, music seems to address the fear of letting go.
This time, at the very end, can be the jewel, can be the crowning moment of a whole lifetime. There's so much learning that goes on at the end.
Oh, babe, for the red belongs.
Their music is a gift designed to ease the physical pain and prepare the spirit for dying. Keith falls into a deep, comfortable sleep.
When you're facing death, you need beauty and you need music to help you on your way.
Harp music that's used to comfort those in pain. Harpists Tony Peterson and Margaret Pasquesi are music thanatologists, and they work at a hospice on the North Shore. First of all, what is a thanatologist? It's not therapy, right? You're not therapists.
Right, we are music thanatologists, and so our focus is specifically end-of-life care.
Mm-hmm. Now, you work at a particular hospice. Tony, which one is that?
We work for the Palliative Care Center and Hospice of the North Shore.
I find it interesting in reading a little bit about what you do. It's not just with the heart, but you are in connection with the patient.
Right. What we do is we will check a patient's vital signs. So we keep track of their pulse and their respirations, and we change the music in response to how the patient changes throughout the course of a visit, which we call a music vigil.
And it's not music that they're used to, and that's a reason for that.
If someone's playing music that's familiar, the music can tend to keep a person in their head, and we're trying to reconnect at a body level. So we're pacing along with the breath and helping a person relax that way.
Regardless of whether someone's in a deep coma or they're very conscious, you do notice a difference?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons that we check the vital signs, so that even if there appears to be no change, for example, in their face, but we see that often. Often someone's face is kind of scrunched up and they become very calm, but we often see a lowered respiration rate or a lowered pulse rate.
Give us an idea of what you do. Take it away.
Jennifer Hollis is a music thanatologist, one of only a few dozen in the world. These self-described midwives of death take cues from their patients' vital signs to bring peace to the terminally ill. One patient she plays for is Dave Warren of Milford, New Hampshire, who has lung cancer. Warren, a trainer for Lucent Technologies and a musician himself, has been at Leahy Clinic since his diagnosis in early March.
First time I heard her play, I just couldn't believe it. The thing that makes it different is that unlike when you listen to other music, when she plays with the harp and when she's playing what she plays, it just transcends the soul. It just goes right to your emotional seat. Every note is melodically phrased perfectly, as is the next, and she's spontaneously creating new phrases that are just so beautiful that it gives a peace and calmness.
Every person is different, obviously, and the way that music affects every person is very, very different. For some people, I will play 3 notes and they will heave a huge sigh and fall completely asleep. Some people are very, very responsive to the music. Other people require a lot more kind of careful tuning in. I don't always know what's happening for people. I understand that music enters the body very, very deeply, that vibration enters the body deeply. Sometimes I just might not be able to see it. Sometimes maybe nothing is happening. I don't know. Sometimes I get feedback from family members in a situation where I feel like, oh, I didn't see a lot of change, and then the family will walk out into the hall with me and say, I can't believe what a difference you made. It's very moving for me to have something to do in those moments when often people feel very helpless, they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. It's a tremendous gift to me to be able to come into that situation and say, well, this is something I can do for you and for your family to support you.
It was a real opening for me to be able to bring Strings of Compassion here. But my journey began before that at St. Patrick's Hospital. I was a chaplain and worked on the medical oncology floor when the school came. And so I was able to study at the School of Music Thanatology and be in the first class, the graduating class. And then it became, where am I going to bring this work? And at that time, there wasn't another hospital in the United States that outside of the hospital in Missoula where there was music thanatology. So finding a place was going to be a challenge.
The word that comes to me as I'm listening to both of you talk about this is sacred. It feels like a very sacred process, and that there's an art to dying, and the music is a part of that art, the assistance of that art of dying, the sacred process of dying.
Absolutely. I think back also to the Middle Ages, in which there was an actual book called the Ars Moriendi, which was the art of dying. So back then, there was an art to it, and people were very concerned about their souls. In modern culture, we've sort of forgotten, especially in American culture, we've forgotten these rituals. So what we try to do is, with the music, to create a sacred space around the bed, around the deathbed. So everyone is included in that sacred moment. It's a very, very sacred time. It's almost the crowning achievement of a person's whole lifetime.
What we find with the music present is a sense of peace and a sense of rest and openness.
Well, I think of the whole universe as being vibration. Everything in the universe vibrates, all sound is vibration, and since we're using sound waves to affect other frequencies in the body, that it's a direct correlation. Just like almost every indigenous culture on Earth uses chant, uses sound in their healing rituals. This is sort of a continuum from that in our own culture.
two things that exist in every culture on the planet. No anthropologist, no cultural anthropologist has ever found a culture that doesn't have music and tears.
In our next story, we meet a group of harpists in Portland who use their talent to comfort the dying. It's called music thanatology, and it's a new take on an ancient tradition.
Laura Moya is here to play music for Helen Lohman and her two sons. But this is not a performance.
Our culture looks at music very much as entertainment, which there isn't anything wrong with that, but we've lost some of that, the healing and therapeutic ways of being in music and sharing music.
Laura is a music thanatologist.
It's the use of prescriptive music to serve the needs of the dying, physical, emotional, spiritual. And for prescriptive music, we use harp and voice.
Sheila Harris is also a music thanatologist.
We begin to add some voice, and as you heard in the clinical discussion, what often happens when you add voice is people feel further reassured. Human voice.
Deus meus adiuvame.
A fair bit of our repertoire comes from the Gregorian chant tradition. It's unmetered, which means that we can use it to follow very closely irregular respiratory patterns in a patient.
Though soothing with music is an ancient practice, music thanatology as part of modern medicine is a relatively new trend.
Sheila and I, as we know it, are the first music thanatologists hired on to hospital staff for a full-time basis.
And for Laura, her work at Providence St. Vincent is the culmination of a lifelong passion for singing.
We sing this love to you.
care of the body, cure of the soul. Music thanatology is a subspecialty of palliative care. Thanatology itself is a word that stems from the root word thanatos, which was a Greek word for the god of death. When we bring a patient onto our service, then we tell them what our services are. And my work is included in that. So right then and there, a patient can, or the family can say, yes, we'd really love to have that. Or not now, maybe later. It is a way to allow people to unbind and let go. Dying is difficult for some people. And this music seems to help people to move forward. We play prescriptively, that is to say, every individual has their very own time, music session. Sometimes when people are anxious, they're breathing very, very, very fast. And I can work with that. Train them to the heart so that they can just slow down. And once again, we're back to that place where they can just work within themselves in a relaxed state. I play for people and their families, particularly at the very, very end of life. When I educate my patients or the families, I try to tell them if we can be here together with all of our intention on the patient's well-being, that's the best. I think dying can be work. Everything is trying to keep us going, and yet we're leaving. I love being able to build a space for people where they can do what they need to do.
But every week, she looks forward to a visit from James Excel. Playing his harp while promoting healing.
It affects the brain, it affects the heart, it affects the metabolism. It affects a lot of deep structures within the brain, in fact, way below conscious level, that in terms of healing.
He is a certified music thanatologist, someone who plays harp music and sings for the sick and dying. On this particular day, we found him playing for Dean, who is a hospice patient, at her home. He says he practices what's called prescriptive music, where he alters his rhythm based on each individual patient.
I get all of my cues from the patient, seeing, checking the vitals, the breathing, pulse, things like that, and trying to reflect that in music.
Dr. Somnath Ghosh is an intensivist at Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center.
A major portion of what I do is take care of critically ill patients.
He says he's seen for himself the benefits of music thanatology.
It's almost as if it relieves pain without additional medications. It is an intervention with zero risks and only potential benefits. It's just another modality in my arsenal to help these patients.
And helping people is precisely why James Excel does what he does.
I just love what I do. I mean, this is a calling.
A life's calling for Excel, who was a cancer survivor as well as a heart attack and stroke victim himself.
I couldn't speak English for a while, but I could sing in Latin and Hebrew and Gaelic. Being able to play for people, and it was part of my own healing process.
With the pull of a harp string and deep melodic chants, Dean is able to get the relief she so desperately needs.
Pain goes away, tremors die down, tension is less, my breathing evens out. It's the best hour of the week.
thanatologist is a person that works with meeting the needs of people that are dying. Thanatos was the Greek word for the being of death. So people that are thanatologists work with death and dying, and music thanatologist does that with music. It is a wonderful practice, and it brings a lot of peace to people. People think of it as a new field, and so to speak, it is within the last 30 years or so. The idea of using music in healing is something that is very old, and so it's actually something that we're going back to rather than something that we're inventing. The harp is integral to the program, and it's not just because it's a heavenly symbol. That's not why we use the harp. We use the harp, first of all, because of its sound. The sound of the harp is so soothing. It goes right to the heart. It's not an invasive kind of instrument like a horn or something, or even piano can be harsher than the sound of the harp. Music is very intrinsic to the human being. We live in a universe that's full of sound and rhythm. Our bodies themselves beat, they vibrate, they sing. Our whole skin system is like a big drum head. We're very attuned to being made of music, and we have rhythms in our body, rhythms in the universe. So when we play for people that are very ill and very vulnerable, and who for some can't really even comprehend words, to hear music is like a coming home. It's like something that is so much a part of who we are as human beings, and I think that's why it works so well.
Our goal is not to make it all better, it's to support people in their process. I am very comfortable in intimate moments, birth and death, and I'm very respectful of those times. I'm hopefully playing to them. I'm meeting them where they are. There are times when it feels like it's more for the family than it is for the patient. There may be conflict in the room. Some people not ready to let their loved one go, some people ready, and how does music bring that together? There may be people having trouble releasing their emotions, and oftentimes when the harp plays, tears come freely. When it's close to the end, and a person might be having some challenge letting go, it's like the rhythm lets go. It becomes non-rhythmic. It may become just several notes. It becomes unfamiliar, so that there's nothing for them to hang on to and to invite them to release and let go. We can come in with all our training and all our knowledge, but in the end, it is being deeply with the patient, seeing them deeply, not looking at them, but seeing them and intuiting what it is that they need, or what it is the family needs, and how can we serve that with our music.